Your destination is on the left.
So welcome. We love the what?
I love the red.
I know, me too. The Red Baroness.
Here's Corin. We are live. Well, not live, but for us, we're live. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm hot, a little tired. We were undernourished until you guys showed up with the sub sandwiches. So we appreciate that. We have plenty to make here, but sometimes you just get tired of cooking inside of an RV and making dishes that come in powdered form that turn into a solid form afterwards. It gets a little exhausting, but it's worth it. It's worth it. Every interview is worth it. My name is Corin. Vickie.
It's nice to meet you.
This is Vickie. I hope it's nice to meet her. We're going to get to know her. I want to thank you first for making the drive here. I know that you guys came pretty much all the way across the state.
Pretty much, yeah.
But was that predominantly through the Ozarks?
No.
Or you went south and around?
You know, we're close by Memphis, so that's the Delta, the Flatland.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, so we came, we didn't go down 40 because it's a hot mess, don't even do that. We came the other way, but it's mostly flatland until you get this side of Little Rock.
Yeah. I'm going to move this microphone a little closer to us just in case, because it is noisy around here. It's my apologies. I sent them a notification that we were going to be extremely busy doing interviews, but they were like, whatever.
They're busy having vacation.
I know, we can't interrupt all the vacation time. Now, where were you born?
I was born in Lepanto as well. Roxy, like I said, Roxy and I have known each other since we were about 2, so we've been friends for about 45 years. We actually live right now where if I go to the front of my yard, she goes to the front of hers, we can see each other down the street.
Really? Yeah. That's hilarious. Do you guys sometimes go out there and just give a little wave?
Not really. But we do have a group text message between the 3 of us that we pretty much touch base every day.
Well, y'all could just use walkie-talkies. You're so close.
But Jill's a little farther away.
Oh.
Not very far.
Ham radio. Ham radio. Okay. Yeah, ham radio for you then.
That, and I'm not at home just a lot, so.
What do you mean, you're not at home a lot?
Well, until COVID, I was working basically 5 jobs.
Oh, okay.
I didn't work them all the time, but I worked at 4 of them. Between 4 of them, I usually worked anywhere between 50 and 60 hours a week.
Oh my goodness.
So, yeah, I would leave in the morning before the kids got up, and then a lot of times I wouldn't make it back till like 7:30 in the evening or something like that. So
you just go from one job over to the next, and then,
or sometimes on Saturdays, Sundays.
Well, on that note, I mean that's a lot of responsibility to take on, and is it because of necessity, or is it because you prefer to make a little bit more money to do more things?
Both.
Or a little bit of both?
Both. I have 3 kids, 3 daughters, that since the twins, I have twins as well. Since they were 2, I've been on my own with just help from, my family every once in a while or something.
Uh-huh.
So to a certain extent, it was a necessity. And we would just do the normal stuff. And it was a long time before we ever went on vacation. I mean, the twins were, probably 8, 9 before we ever went on our first vacation together.
Wow.
So, I really stepped into doing some PRN, which is what we call like the part-time, that they just call me when they need extra help.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm a speech therapist.
Oh, okay.
In my full-time job. And to help pay for, because I was like, we don't go do anything fun, That, and my oldest daughter played sports year-round.
Which is expensive.
Yes, very.
Yes. My daughter was in soccer from age 6 all the way through high school, and the soccer programs were not cheap at all. So I know what you mean by that, but it's important to do your best to support your kids and what they enjoy doing, because it could be the one thing that keeps them out of trouble in the long run, you know.
My oldest daughter was 6 foot by the time she was 12 years old.
6 foot
Actually,
at
let me
12
take that
years
back.
old?
She was 5'10" by the time she was
5'10".
12. Yeah.
5'10" at 12 though?
Mm-hmm. And she played basketball, and she played softball for
Yeah.
the high school, and she played a travel team basketball for one season.
Did she have a
Decided-
nickname? Was she given a
decided-
nickname? at all?
No.
No.
But decided she wanted to come back and play softball for the high school, and we couldn't do both, so she played softball and then got into travel softball. So, and the twins do band, so I've done 2 instruments apiece for them. So
Yes, I did some band when I was a kid. I remember my mom. You know, I had a single mom as well, and she worked the 2 jobs. She did her graphic design in the day, and then she would bartend for sometimes 5 nights out of the week in order to make up the difference. And I wanted to play the cornet, and we just couldn't afford to buy one, you know. And so we went down to some pawn shop, you know, and finally found, you know, this really old one that you know, that we could afford, and got it. And I was the worst cornet player in the band. In fact, when we had our big recital, the band teacher came up to me and he goes, now listen, Corky is what I used to be called when I was a kid. He goes, now listen, Corky, you know, it's nothing personal, but when we get to your part, if you could just mime your playing and everything. And I was just devastated. It just absolutely devastated me. And then a couple of days later, I accidentally dropped my cornet down a staircase, and it dented it all up, and it wouldn't play right anymore. And there went my dreams of being a famous cornet player. But I ended up with the name Corin, and later on in life, but not coronet. I think that would be the feminine version, perhaps. I don't know. But that said, when you were growing up, what was life like for you? What kind of economic? I was in what I call the upper lower class economic strata myself growing up. That's where I designated myself. You know.
that's probably around about where we were. Both parents worked. My dad worked a lot of seasonal stuff like construction, underground construction, things like that. So a lot of times during the winter, he would be, you know, just off work.
What is
the whole winter.
underground construction?
Well,
That's-
laying pipe and stuff like that. Like
Oh,
you
okay.
My mom worked a factory that she had worked since she was 18 years old.
What was the factory?
It's called American Greetings. They make
Oh,
cards.
the cards. Yeah, of course. American Greetings. Yeah.
There's a factory at Osceola, Arkansas. She started there when she was 18.
Is it still there?
It is. I actually worked there from the time I was 16 to summers in college
Really?
to pay for college. Yeah.
That's so. What was it like? Was your mom working there at the same time? How was that?
Well, we didn't necessarily see each other because you have to understand there's like football fields of football fields of football fields in this factory.
Really?
I mean, yeah. It'll probably take you 20 minutes just to walk through it from one, or maybe more, from one end to the next.
What
Probably
job?
more.
What job were you specifically doing there?
I did various things because they had this program. They would hire like the kids of employees during the summer to work.
That's a great idea.
So because you know summer would be their big time. Because
Yeah.
summer in the card industry is when you're doing Christmas.
Yes.
So
Things pick up.
So that was their busy time, and so I've the most frequent thing I did was what I call made displays. In production.
Oh, okay.
Like, you know, when you go into a store and the cards, they'll have like a cardboard display with cards in it and,
Yes.
and ribbon, and I made the displays
That's cool.
for them to feel. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, did you ever walk into a store and see something that you made?
Yes. It was not enjoyable.
No, was it? Oh, why not?
Well, you know, first of all, it's very, very hot.
Oh, okay.
Second of all, you can't hear anything, so you're isolated down there by yourself. All of summer, I would be singing Christmas songs in my head, which was really odd to my friends.
Yeah.
By the time I left, because I'm looking at Christmas cards the whole time, and they're cardboard. So, you've ever had a paper cut that you thought, "Oh, I'm dying"? Try a cardboard cut.
Really?
I had gloves I would put on that I cut the fingertips out, and then they had that green cloth tape
Uh-huh.
that I would put around the tips of my fingers so that I could still have the tips, but it would protect my cuticles.
Right.
Because it would just tear your cuticles. I mean, you know, I would go into the bathroom and go wash my hands and just sticking them under just regular water. I was like,
Ooh.
yeah.
One
So-
would never guess that that a card factory could be so dangerous.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily call it dangerous, but it was not joyful.
Yeah. I'll let this this motorcycle guy go by here real quick, and there we go.
The whole motorcycle gang.
I got
Oh,
to
they're
a lot
coming?
of them. One thing that
They might be headed to the New Attitudes Motorcycle Club we passed by yesterday. Let's see. There we
One
go.
thing that it did do for me is, I went and I said, I'm definitely going to college.
Really? That's great.
I'm definitely going to college, yes.
So having that occurrence happen because you're, you know, was it looking at the grind of life without potentially the right formal training that was sort of
It was
scary,
the
or
monotony more
the
than
monotony?
anything else of what they, you know, because ironically, actually, when I finally decided, okay, I'm going to college, my mom took us, they were having a family day and they were cooking out and stuff like that. So my mom took us on a tour, you know, because they were touring through part of the factory before they took us out to like the shipping area where they had the stuff set up, games for kids and stuff like that. And I watched one person just catch boxes off this machine, made the boxes. They down there by themselves, total isolation, too much
Right.
noise, caught, put it in a box, caught, put it in a box, caught, put it in a box. And I thought, I can't do that. I mean, because even there, I mean, I did it because that's what you got to do.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to make money, you know, you got to pay for things. So I did it, but I was like, my mind will just go numb. Nothing against anybody that does anything
Of
like
course.
that, because you gotta,
yeah.
just like anybody else. I've worked jobs even after I got my degree, I've worked jobs cooking hamburgers to make money.
Yeah.
But I was just like, this is not what I want to do with my life. This is
Yeah.
not where, it's the monotony of just complete and total isolation. And I just was like, okay, this is not where I want to be. And ironically, I did that exact job.
Really? Later on in life?
While I worked summers there. Ironically,
Oh,
I did that exact job.
okay. Well, so what was when you finally decided for yourself, okay, this is it. I gotta go get it. I gotta educate my way out of this or figure some other direction. What direction did you see fit for yourself?
Well, I knew for years I had said I wanted to be a nurse. And then I kind of started doubted that towards the end of high school. So honestly, how I wound up a speech therapist, I walked into the counselor's office and I was like, I want to do something where I help people though.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, do you have any pamphlets on it? So she handed me some, and one of them was speech therapy, and I just went, looks interesting. And the college close by, because I knew I had to go there so that I could live at home and drive there.
Yeah. Well, what school was that? Just so people know in case they want to
Arkansas
look
State
up.
University in Jonesboro.
Okay, Arkansas State University in Jonesboro. Good school?
It's pretty, I mean, I graduated. I mean, lots of people graduate there. I mean, it's not that I wouldn't have enjoyed, going other places.
Sure.
But like I said, I knew unless they were going to give me a scholarship that was going to pay for everything, that was going to be my choice.
Right.
Where I could, that I could drive back and forth from home and attend college. And they had a speech therapy program, so I was like, okay, that's it. That's what I'm doing.
What was it, a good program at that school? Do you think? Did you have a good teacher? Or?
I had some excellent teachers.
Okay.
I had some excellent teachers, and the thing is that our national organization is very strict on governing how many kids, how many placements are in the programs and things like that. You don't have any choice but to have a good program.
Gotcha. And where did that lead you in life once you started this? I guess you might even call it a vocational type of training. Because it's so specific. It's not like a general type of thing. Where did that lead you once you were finished with your studies?
Well, I actually, once I graduated, I had to have to be a speech therapist, you have to have your master's.
Yeah.
So I got my bachelor's in 3.5 years, and I got my master's. and I moved to Texas for a couple of years.
Whereabouts?
Longview, right outside Longview.
Sure. Yeah.
And then once I started having once I had my oldest daughter, we moved back to be closer to family. And I've worked various jobs. I've worked some jobs that I was in 12 different placements a week, all the
Wow.
way from birth to death. Mostly I used to work in skilled nursing facilities with the elderly.
Okay.
More recently, I have moved into more pediatric,
Okay.
like preschool, elementary age.
How was working with the elderly at that time? I find that to be really emotional for myself.
It is because you can get very attached, particularly with ones that are long-term there, and which now it's very much moved away from a lot of long-term. There are long-term people there, but we have a lot of people that just come in, like maybe
Yeah.
they've had a total knee replacement or something like that. And,
So they come and go.
They come for rehab and then go back out home.
Yeah.
It can be very emotional. I will say this: you have to have a sense of humor.
You gotta have a sense of humor. Yeah.
You have to have a sense of humor because they're going to say things that are like,
Oh. Yeah. Yeah. I bet. I bet. Yeah. It's sort of like children and elderly, no filter.
There was this one guy in one facility I worked at. He was, he said, he looked at me, and he said, I want you to be my girlfriend. And so I, just kind of was like, oh, but I already have a boyfriend.
Yeah.
And he said, that's okay. A car has 5 tires, don't it? It's got a spare in the back. And I was like, what do you say to that?
I would say I don't want to be a spare tire.
I was like, well, it does. But
Do you think? I mean, I find that I learn quite a bit from older people as well. Do you think you learned a little bit from them during that time period too?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And of course, a big influential part of my life was my grandmother. My mom worked, like I said, all the time, so we were with my grandmother a lot.
Yeah.
So that, and actually for a while, she was in one of the placements that I worked in.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's like full circle all the time with you. It's just a constantly going full circle.
So, she's my angel. She was my angel. Now she's my angel.
Yeah.
So.
What having that that kind of going back and forth between, I just think like working where your grandmother worked, working where your mom worked, doing those kind of things, was there ever a time period, when you felt like, how did I end up here doing this? Or has it just been, something that was embraced as being a part of the cycle of life?
Honestly, I would be honest, I'm very task oriented.
Okay.
One of my big issues, and what I try to work on, and I know Roxy's over there shaking her head. I have a tendency, even when we go on road trips, I'm like, okay, we gotta have a plan. I'm the planner. I plan everything.
Oh God, we've needed you on this trip. I can tell you that.
I'm the planner. Okay, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do. So one of the things I've really had to I've struggled to kind of let go and just be like, okay, I'm gonna be in the moment more.
Yeah.
And just enjoy, instead of worrying about, okay, we got to get done with this so that we can go on and do this, then, just enjoy being with the people that I'm with.
Right.
So, I, like I said, I have a tendency to be very task oriented. And I enjoy my job, but it's a job,
Right.
I mean, I'd rather be home with my kids.
Of course.
But I, I enjoyed my job, but it is a job. So you do what you got to do to pay bills.
Well, that's just it. And you seem to have a fearlessness about accepting the labor that you're given, regardless of what it is, and carrying through with it to the best of your ability, which is a testament to the character that you have. Because most people, I think that don't even have the tenacity to put up with that kind of ebb and flow in this. And you're going to do this, now you're going to work here, now you're going to go over there. And most people are like, I can't take it. Where do you think you got this this kind of vigor, this dedication?
Like I said, my mom always worked. My grandma, she spent a lot of her time taking care of us, but even then she would work nights a lot. Places. I mean, I've just always had people around me that worked, and I always, grew up knowing if I want something out of life, I gotta earn it. I gotta go get it. I gotta work to get it.
Right. No free lunches.
No.
Wait, we got a free lunch today. You guys brought it to us.
But I want to provide things for my children. My oldest daughter's out of the house now, and she's on her own. But I still have two that are getting up to be the age of, those high school expensive years.
Yeah.
There'll be a junior this next year, so we're looking at senior pictures
and there's the car thing and the
car, college,
and,
and if they decide to go, there's too much to do. There's too much to do.
Not enough time in the day.
So you just gotta. But I've always tried to find the balance. My daughter will tell you, even though I worked, as much as I worked, if she had a ball game, almost always I was there.
Yeah.
If the twins had, maybe a football game they were playing at, for the most part I was there. You gotta balance that. Yeah,
that's what I was curious about that, and you've kind of touched on the question that I was about to ask, but how have you been able to establish some kind of balance in there, because it's not easy. It really isn't. I mean, have you had to not take on certain responsibilities that might have benefited you financially, but have taken away from family and all of that?
Well, I mean, the thing that I've tried to stress to my family is organization. If you've got something going on, you've got to let me know. I've got to get it planned, because I can usually almost always manage it as long as I have some planning. Fortunately, the jobs I worked, there weren't set hours. I didn't have to work 9 to 5 per se. I could come in at 6 and work till 2. I could come in at 7 and work till 3. As long as I got
the hours in.
Yeah, I mean, I could come in and do it within certain time frames. As far as my extra jobs, like I said, they're what we call PRN. They text you that you need it. If you're not available, you're not available. If you are, you are. So if I know that they've got something going on, then I tell them, I'm not available that day. Maybe I can come in on the Sunday before and do it instead of that day, or the Saturday after. If we don't have anything going on.
Well, I myself am horrible at scheduling, even though we've been able to manage this somehow by the seat of our pants. Where did you get this kind of innate sort of, I don't know what the word for is, but this desire to keep everything in order? Where did that come from? I'm just curious.
I always tell people I'm very left-brained.
Okay.
I'm very left-brained. I'm the organizer. I'm the planner. I'm the analytical problem solver. I'm not artistic and creative in any way.
Right.
I love artistic and creative people. I admire them so much because I have none of it. I'm right there behind you, supporting you, but you go ahead and you do that.
Yes, well, you balance it out, because we have nothing that you have. Unfortunately, most of us, our skills at planning things are extremely limited, but we can get the creative stuff done. But how's everything with your family now? How's things with your kids? The relationship, is it pretty solid? Is it?
One of them's here.
Yeah.
The other twin is they were visiting with their dad, and he actually lives here in Hot Springs.
Okay.
So she's still with her dad. She's probably stay the rest of the summer before school starts back. Are
you going to see them while you're here?
Probably not. I just actually saw them Friday. They just dropped her off Friday.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay.
because this was kind of a last minute. Oh, hey, we're going to Hot Springs Sunday.
I love it. Y'all are crazy and you're the best. It's just like so sweet of you to take your time out, for this and come all this way. We really, really appreciate it a lot. How do you teach your kids, without being overbearing? Like, what is your kind of style of parenting to try and stress the important things without being overbearing?
They would probably say I'm overbearing an awful lot.
Just more strict than a lot of kids I grew up around.
It's just that I
More
know
strict,
that
yeah.
a lot of kids around there are doing things they have no business doing.
Right.
None. And so a lot of them I know because they literally, if you're friends with them, they come home and tell me so, so I don't have an issue.
They know their parents. They all grew
Right.
up in the same town.
Right. So yeah, everybody knows.
I mean,
everybody
they
knows
could
them.
go, but it has to be somebody. I want to know if you're going, where are you going, who are you going to be with, who's driving, who's going to be there, when are you coming back, and it depends. There are some kids that if I know they're going to be there, then it's like, okay, you're not going.
Right.
Because I already know that's just going to lead to some issues that we don't need to deal with. But we very frequently have kids at our house.
Yes.
And as long as I know the kids and I know their parents and I know their parents are at least going to respect me in watching the children, my kids tell people all the time, I can't do that. My mom will find out. You don't know. She will find out. But as far as what they think and believe and things like that, I try to be very open-minded. 2 of my daughters are members of the LGBTQ community.
Mm-hmm.
So we talk about, viewpoints.
Sure.
I don't try to force mine down their throat. I try to give them my viewpoint. I try to give them viewpoints of other people that I don't necessarily agree with because I think that I'm a big believer in kids needing to be able to reason through things on their own.
Mm-hmm.
And decide for themselves, to think for themselves about what's right and what's wrong, and decide for themselves what they believe and what they feel like is right.
How have you managed to establish an open communication with your kids that allows them the level of trust that they've given you to be able to be honest with you about what they're up to and what they're doing without fear of getting backlash for the honesty, depending on what it's what it is.
Well, and there's maybe times that I might be angry with them
Yeah.
over something, and I'm not saying that I know everything they ever do, because
Right,
I'm sure
right.
that there are plenty, but they know at the end of the day, no matter what, even if I'm angry in this moment, that later on we're going to be fine,
Right.
because no matter what. That's when my oldest daughter, came out as being, bisexual, she cried. She sat on my floor and she cried.
Right.
Because she was so afraid of what my response might be.
Right.
Because we hadn't really talked about anything like that.
Sure.
Per se. And, I just looked at her and I said, I want you to figure out who you are and be who you are, and you're my daughter, and I love you.
Yeah, exactly.
And no matter what, that's the end result.
Yeah.
So I think they know that no matter what, I love them, and no matter what, I'm going to support them and be there for them.
Absolutely, it is interesting, and when we think of being in the year 2020 and all these technological advances and all of this stuff, and yet oddly enough, it's there's still this tiptoeing around certain subject matter, which to me is almost a pointless topic of conversation with regards to human relationships. So my sister, she's LGBTQ community, has been since high school, and it's the labeling and all of that stuff where because it's like since my sister got out of high school, it was just called being gay. you know, and now it's like all these other labels have been put on top of it. And when I boil it down, it's about, are these people being nice to each other? You know, are they is it a good quality relationship? Are they, you know, have they found somebody in this life that respects them and supports them and is there for them? It doesn't matter what you know, what you are, you know, because I mean, I look at things as, you know, from a spiritual standpoint. When I look at it, I'm like, spiritual beings don't have a feminine or masculine gender attached to them like the physical body does. And if two like-minded beings of like-minded sexuality who are all in agreement and of age or whatever the case may be come together, that's beautiful. Just so long as the relationship is solid and they support each other. So
Yeah, our biggest issue with that, of course, is like we've said, we live in a town, very southern town of 2000.
Ooh. So it's like the 1950s there.
Yeah, and especially like our generation now that's very, very political
Yeah.
and has a harder time accepting one another, even though we're like the most diverse generation that's ever been.
Right.
But there's still some kids who were raised that this is wrong, and if you don't do this, this is against the Bible, you're going to hell for this.
Right.
Which I think scares them in a way. We're like, oh, well, you're wrong, I'm right, you're going to hell, and I'm not. Not just that. I think a lot of kids in my grade have that problem.
Yeah, you know, I hope that the microphone picks you up back there, but, you know, she was just saying how kind of the dogmatic approach to religious doctrine can sometimes fly right in the face of organic, natural human relationships, which to me, there should be a clean separation between what is pre-written or preconceived and what naturally is in life. So you didn't, when this was when your kids were coming out, and this was it something that you had to chew on for a little bit? Was there a learning curve for you, or was it like all good?
Pretty much, it was pretty much all good
Yeah.
from the beginning. Because I mean, we hadn't had discussions of, oh, so if you decide that you're bisexual or gay, then that's fine, or anything like that. But she knew that I was, my stance on you know, rights for the LGBT community was that they deserve the same rights as everybody else. They deserve the right to be married. They deserve the right to have insurance for, you know, and be considered that person's significant other.
Absolutely.
For medical issues and things like that. I mean, we had already had that discussion. She knew that. But still, because of just the society and, you know, and where we live, she was very scared. Obviously, Isabel, who's my other member of the I can't even, sorry.
It's a long one.
After that, felt much more comfortable
Mm-hmm.
coming out. She was my oldest was very afraid of what other family members might have to
Right.
say. But so a lot of the people, she just kind of let them accidentally stumble into it.
Right.
It wasn't a conversation of, it wasn't like it was being hidden necessarily, but
Yeah.
it was like, we're just going to let you figure it out on your own, you know. And some that she did tell, but she
Yeah.
knew, because I'll be perfectly honest, I have a tendency to be very strong-willed, and I don't necessarily mind voicing it. That if they, you know, got too bad, that I would, you know, she knew I had her back.
Yes.
To be like, we don't care, you know, feel how you feel, because she's going to continue to be her, and we don't care.
Exactly.
You know, you can be part of us or on the periphery.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that being said, you know, what kind of advice might you have for a parent out there who is in a similar situation, small town, maybe more concerned about what other people are going to be thinking than you know, because that to me becomes a real, it can be like this, because, you know, the parent might really not care, but they're terrified of what will happen in the village, you know, so then then it's like this push and pull between the parent, the kid, the keep it a secret. Don't, I mean, what would you might be able to give some advice to a parent dealing with this in a similar type of environment?
And that can be very hard, because there was a lot of pushback. There were particular teachers' classes that I had to go and pull my daughter from.
Wow.
And say, you know, this isn't English, math. I mean, she's got plenty of credits to graduate, so she will not be in this class anymore. You'll find someplace else for her to be that period. Because of things that were allowed to happen in the classroom.
Like bullying, stuff like that?
And it's hard for me to give advice on that, because I am that very strong-willed, I am going to stick up for my kids. You know, I don't have to be rude to you for me to let you know this is your boundary.
Right.
To give advice for those people but what I would say is you always have to have their back. They always have to feel like you have their back. It's very important for their self-esteem and their security in themselves and their mental health. Mm-hmm. To know that you have their back against whatever comes. And I always told my kids, I said, and I've told everybody else, I'll tear this town down brick by brick for my kids.
I love that.
So, you know, like I said, and you don't have to be ugly, you don't have to be rude, you don't have to be, but I have a tendency to be a little blunt. But I don't necessarily mean to be rude, but I'm just going to tell you how it is and try to set boundaries for you. This is how you deal with my children. Right.
That's beautiful, though. That's really beautiful, and it's. Do you think that? Do you think that your attitude and the certainty and the strength that you bring to your position, do you think that that's also had a reverberative effect on some of the people you've had to challenge over this time period in a positive way? Or do they just run for the hills?
A lot of them. I think a lot of them respect me in some ways. They respect, you know, that when I come to them, because I try not to fuss over everything.
Yeah.
You know, I try to teach my kids to fend for themselves too. Like, this is just going to happen. This is life. You've got to learn to get that thick skin a little bit, to not care about what they think. You're always going to have people, you know, just because this kid says something to you at school, you know, you're going to have somebody at work that you can't get away from. I mean, you know, you've got to learn to deal with that to a certain extent. So I try to make it count when I do go, to be something that I have to, you know, this has to be addressed. I can't, you know, address this with my kids. I can't tell them, you know, give them, you know, ways to potentially avoid this situation. This has to be addressed directly. So I try to minimize those and not necessarily, you know, the old saying, pick your battles. Mm-hmm. So I try to do that. But the thing you have to understand is what we're dealing with is a lot of people that are very set in their ways. This was how they were raised. This is, you know, and they're not going to challenge that. This is right and this is wrong, and, you know, and they're not going to change it. And they do if you give them, even politely, some differing viewpoint or different perspective, mm-hmm. they get very defensive. Mm-hmm. And they feel challenged.
To accept a person for the person that they are, so long as they're a good person.
And so they feel like attacked.
Right. Which is strange, isn't it?
Because they're not willing to look at themselves and alter their mindsets. And so I, you know, that's like on the way up here, you know, Isabel was like, it's like, Mom has no friends except for y'all three. And I was like, I mean, I have friends, but, you know, I mean, there are a lot of people, because I and that's probably another one of my faults. I'm very quick to if I don't feel like you want to talk to me, if I don't feel like, if I'm not going to be rude to you, and I'm not going to be ugly to you. And if you talk to me, I'll still talk to you, but I will separate myself quickly.
Right.
I have a tendency to be very reserved and very internal.
And it seems like you don't play that social game either, or the social nicety game either. It's a waste of time. It's like stroking people's egos and trying to.
I do try to do that to a certain extent,
Yeah.
and it's not that I think it's a waste of time. I have a tendency to be more blunt than I think that. And like I said, not rude, but I mean, because I'll never intentionally hurt your feelings.
Right.
If I think that, unless you just really make me angry, I'll never intentionally hurt your feelings. There's a lot of things I won't say. Like if you even start bringing up the topic, if I know that you're not going to like what I have to say about that topic,
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie about it.
Right.
We're just not going to talk about that topic. We're just going to steer the topic someplace else,
Yes.
So I do try to play the social niceties. And truth be told, and a lot of people won't know this, but I pretty much will give somebody the shirt off my back if I can. But I don't necessarily have people that view me that way a lot.
Right. Right. Well, character speaks louder than words and all of that anyway, and I can imagine that that the character you have shown certainly outshines any kind of opinions, adverse opinions that someone else out there may have against you. Your kids seem like they have, at least this one right here, and from the sound of it, the others seem like they turned out really great, and that's a testament to you as well.
I hope so.
Did you? Has your approach to life, been more of a practical kind of a weighing the pros and cons, or has there been a spiritual spine in there, or is it mostly
definitely,
just?
definitely. I think that if you're entirely practical and no spiritual, then you become very, very, very insensitive and very self-involved, and and maybe a little sociopathic. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So there is. I mean, we did go to church when they were younger, but again, there's a lot of issues with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
'Cause I've never married.
Mm-hmm.
That's another odd thing about it. She's been married twice. I've never been married. She's still on her first one. So I've never been married, and that, of course, was very frowned upon in the church. So we've, separated ourselves. Not that we're still not very spiritual and have beliefs in that area,
Yeah.
but because, like I said, people have a tendency to be very closed-minded about some things. And
Well, on that note, this is actually a perfect. I think it's a good last question here. Is what advice might you give to those individuals out there who are closing themselves off to being able to have a broader point of view, or what advice might you give to people kind of in general about these types of things? I am curious because you have such a great attitude about it, and maybe there might be a nugget in here in this question that,
knowledge is never a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
Knowledge is never a bad thing. You can always take knowledge and then choose to, to filter it through your beliefs that you already have and what you were raised, and choose how you want to incorporate that knowledge into your life. But knowledge is never a bad thing. So if you're closing yourself to that knowledge because it's telling you something that necessarily goes against your, beliefs that you've been raised to have.
Some kind of indoctrinated belief system that you have, yeah.
You're limiting yourself a lot. And I use this word a lot, and people get offended by it, and I really don't mean it that way. You're choosing to be ignorant.
Right.
And I don't mean that as stupid, because that's how a lot of people take it.
Sure.
I mean that as uninformed.
Yeah.
Knowledge is never a bad thing.
Knowledge is never a bad thing. And touching on that, you're absolutely right. The taking one's time out to investigate something a little bit further, it's just time. That and what we might gain out of taking the time out, like how much I've gained out of taking time out to get to know you today. and Roxy as well. You know, my mind is getting blown by all of these interviews, and I hope that those of you who are taking your time out, because we're not interviewing Brad Pitt. I'm sorry. I got a comment like, oh, I'd love to watch them if it was like maybe Brad Pitt, and I was like, you've missed the plot. You know what I'm saying? You've totally missed the plot. We don't need your view. You know what I mean? I was also, it was also mentioned to me, you know, oh, you know, you can do this and this to get your view count up and everything. And it's like, I'd rather have a small view count of people who are actually interested than thousands of fake likes and all of that stuff. Because when I look at it, you know, some of the videos have had, you know, several hundred, over 300 views and stuff like that. And I'm like, if you put all of them in one room at one time and they were all listening to your story, that's a lot of people. So I hope that a lot of people get to hear your story as well, because I got a lot out of it.
Thank you.
And I thank you so much for joining us on Love
Very
America
nice
Tour.
to meet you.